but I'm not sure we're able to see 40 years in advance. When the United Nations Advisory Group on Greenhouse Gases wrote about rapid, unpredictable, nonlinear responses, this is what they had in mind. Abrupt climate change. According to a paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, October 2012, and this reminds me, by the way, that when I use somebody's name instead of the journal, it's not in the referee journal literature. So I have names here, Paul Beckwith and John Davies. Those are not in the referee journal literature. When I give a referee journal article, I list the name. Okay, so that's an important distinction, because some of these more catastrophic predictions and assessments and analyses are not published. According to a paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science from about a year and a half ago, game theory indicates current climate negotiations warn over catastrophe will... I have one word in response to that. Duh. Really? Current negotiations will not avert catastrophe. Well, why? Because what does it take to avert catastrophe? It takes collapse, that's what it takes. And can you imagine a politician running on that campaign? So I can just see the debate between the Republicans and the Democrats. Who can tell them apart? I don't know. And the Republican says, hey, I can collapse the industrial economy within a month after I'm elected. I guarantee that a month after I'm elected, nobody has water coming through the pipes. And the Democrat says, I can do better than that. I can do it in a week. Nobody's going to vote for that. Well, like 12 of us would. But almost nobody would vote for that. Paper in Science points out that climate change is on track to occur 10 times faster than any time during the last 65 million years. So we're on track to warm the planet faster than at any time in the last 65 million years. Within that time is a 5°C temperature rise 55 million years ago within a span of 13 years. 10 times faster than that? That sounds like, oh, it's hot. That's what that sounds like. Does that mean within a span of 13 years we'll see a 50-degree temperature rise? Or does that mean in 1.3 years we'll see a 5°C temperature rise? Either way, we're not going to see many humans around to observe it. Not at the end, anyway. Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, now in a paper more than 5 years old, points out that climate change is irreversible. The greenhouse gases we put into the atmospheric carbon dioxide level right now is the minimum level we will observe for at least the next 1,000 years. Carbon dioxide is incredibly recalcitrant in the atmosphere. We're at roughly 400 parts per million minimum for at least the next 1,000 years. 350.org goes around telling people we can reduce the carbon dioxide level in the atmosphere to 350 parts per million by mid-century. Let's think about malpractice for a minute. If your doctor knows, based on his extensive knowledge of medical records, medical history, and your personal history, if he concludes that you're going to be dead in 6 months, do you want him to tell you? Or do you want him to lie? I think most people want to know. I think most people don't want to be lied to. I think 350.org is guilty of malpractice. The United Nations Environment Program during 2008 points out that global carbon emissions increased to the highest level since we fully implemented the Clean Air Act in this country in 1980. This is 2008. This is the most dire depths of the Great Recession. The Great Recession. We don't call them depressions anymore because, you know, too depressing. So now we call them Great Recessions. I don't know about you, but it was great for me. By the way, 2008, that was nothing. We shattered that record in 2009, and then we shattered that record in 2010. Guess what? We broke that record in 2011. We broke that record in 2012. And we just found out a couple months ago that 2013 set a new all-time record for greenhouse gas emissions. Who would have thunk it? Turns out that you can't just slow the industrial economy. We're in the midst of a worldwide Great Depression or Great Recession, depending on how politically you want to spin that. And things are not slowing down. We produce the highest level of emissions in history every single year. It turns out, as Tim Garrett pointed out in an excellent paper in Climatic Change published in November 2009, written 2 years before that, only collapse prevents runaway climate change. Only collapse. And that was before we knew about the 30 self-reinforcing feedback loops I'm going to mention shortly. Only collapse prevents runaway climate change. Of course, collapse triggers catastrophic meltdown of 440-some nuclear power plants around the world, so that's going to be inconvenient. Since Fukushima alone represents a serious threat to humanity, to habitat for humanity in the northern hemisphere. Fukushima alone, 3 of the 440-some nuclear reactors in the world. So, damned if you do, damned if you don't. Maintain the industrial economy so we can all have a few bucks more, and therefore kill us from climate change. Or collapse the world's industrial economy so that we can have complete meltdown of nuclear power plants and kill us all anyway. It doesn't look that good to me. Damned if you do and damned if you don't, then do. Let's do something. Let's do something beyond the mainstream, beyond going to our cube jobs, working at the cube farm, and seeing who's the prairie dog next to it. Everybody I talk to says, well, I'm going to change the system from the inside. They're the bugs in the stomach of the chicken. They're already dead, and they're going to change things from the inside. From the inside, what does that mean? That means working within civilization, which is a heat engine, as pointed out by Tim Garrett in his excellent paper in Climatic Change, published in 2009, 5 years ago. Change things from the inside, maintain civilization. It's a horrible idea. Civilization is a heat engine. It's leading to overheating the planet. Not only that, industrial civilization drives to extinction some 200 species every day. Industrial civilization fouls the air and dirties the water more every single day. Every year is worse than the year before, and everybody I know thinks it's better because we have smartphones. Smartphones for genocide, that's my bumper sticker. Everybody I know votes smartphones and genocide. Tim Garrett's paper in Climatic Change, published 2009, received the outcry from the civilized scientific community immediately. It's been cited by, last I checked, less than a year ago. I think this is the most important paper to come out in the climate sciences ever. And it's been cited fewer than 10 times. So this is what scientists do, they cite each other's work. But nobody's citing this paper from 5 years ago. Finally, a paper in the Astrophysical Journal about a year ago points out that Earth is within 1% of being uninhabitable. It's too close to the sun. Astrophysicists believe for the entire enterprise of astrophysics that Earth was right in the middle of the habitable zone, right there in the middle of the green zone. Given a star our size, a sun our size, it seemed that we were right in the middle of the habitable zone, but in fact, you can see Earth up there in the upper right. We're on the inner edge of the habitable zone. Mars is on the outer edge of the habitable zone. Venus is about the same distance toward the sun as Mars is from Earth away from the sun. And we know what happened to Venus. It went Venus. Could we? Well, it seems if we make a minor change to our atmospheric chemistry, we could in fact go Venus. But we haven't made a minor change in atmospheric chemistry to Earth's atmosphere, have we? We've made a major change. Many major changes. Carbon dioxide levels are more than 50% higher than they were at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Methane levels are 250% higher than they were at the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Methane is 100 times more powerful greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide in the short term. Meaning fewer than a decade, less than a decade or so. We've made major changes in atmospheric chemistry. We may well have pushed ourselves out of the habitable zone. Finally, what about collapse? When collapse occurs, when we can't manage to sustain the unsustainable that is industrial civilization, when the project fails, and it will, because fossil fuels are fossil fuels, they don't last forever. When that happens, without the atmospheric sulfates that we're kicking up into the atmosphere, without those, Earth would be an extra 1.1 C warmer. Add that to the 0.85 C we're above the Industrial Revolution right now, and that takes us to 1.95 C. That sounds a lot like 2 to me. Even collapse takes us to 2. The much dreaded political target. Burning no fossil fuels from now on takes us to 2 in a matter of days. Burning a bunch of fossil fuels from now on takes us well above 2, as we've seen from these major assessments.